Hi guys, thank you for joining me today. Today is going to be my second time at pressure canning foods, and today I'm going to do hot dogs. But then I thought I would do something different besides just washing and sterilizing my lids and jars. I was going to use this to sterilize, and evidently you only have to put it in for so many minutes. Supposed to squeeze it, fill up the container, and then pour it in your water. Alright, so let's put my jars in here. And I'm going to do 7 today, jars of hot dogs. This stuff is supposed to be used for cleaning things for fermentation. That's why I originally bought the Santi Clean, but I've been using it to sterilize when I clean my counters and want to clean things from chicken, because chicken, as you know, it has a lot of salmonella. Yeah, just let them drain, and then I'm gonna put them in warm water after I do all this. I don't have a dishwasher, so everything's got to be washed by hand. And we'll throw the lids in there. Alright, let's put this back on there. The hot dogs that I'm going to be using are Bar S, and it says here they're made from, let's see, chicken, pork added, 24 count, 3 pounds. I'm going to have to see how many fit in each jar, and then I'm going to cook them, or start to cook them before I put them in the jars. I got the water on. So it looks like it'll hold 8 hot dogs with 1 inch of head space, and I'm going to throw them now all into the hot water and, partially cook them. What I'm going to do different too this time, I'm going to put olive oil on the seal, the rubber seal. This cooker didn't say you had to put olive oil or anything on the seal, but there's other cookers that suggest you put olive oil on it. So I thought, well, why not this one? And I thought, well, I'll do it to this one also. Maybe it'll help the ring to last longer. I don't know. Help it from preventing cracking. Supposedly you're supposed to change the ring every 3 years. Another thing I'm going to do is add 1 teaspoon of salt to each container. I'm not saying I know what I am doing whatsoever, because this is only my second time at canning. So I'm not claiming anything that I'm doing is correct or safe. Do what you want to do. Read your manual, as they say. Being a disclaimer, I couldn't find anything under the USDA for canning hot dogs. Just, the basics about meat, and that was about it. So anyways, this is regular salt with iodine in it. But one of my followers in my first video, showing my first time at canning, suggested adding salt to the hamburger. So I'm going to do that with the hot dogs. I don't think that little bit of salt is going to make any difference. And then I am going to fill them with fluid. And I'm not cutting them up. I'm only going to put them in there whole. Yeah, the grandkids, they love hot dogs. When my kids were little, they would sneak them and eat them raw. I know hot dogs are not good for you, but it's more like a comfort food. So I tried using the funnel to put the hot dogs in, which was not very successful. So what I ended up doing was taking the jar over here and putting the hot dogs in one at a time on its side. I'm gonna clean the rims when I'm done. Got one sticking up. And, well, hold on. Okay, I got them all in their jars. Kind of a pain getting them to stand up. And we're going to add the water. Let's see, I'm probably going to have to do some more water, because I was using my big pan to cook the hot dogs in. My kitchen's so darn little. Might be better if I didn't have my washing machine out here that I hook up to the sink. Get all the little bubbles out. That's easy because there's lots of room for them to grow, to expand. And 1 inch. There we go. Let's fill up another one. Get the little bubbles out. Make sure there's no air in there. Fill it up a little bit more. Alright. Needs a little bit more water, it looks like. Alright, so we got 4 of them filled up, and we'll clean the rims with a paper towel and plain white vinegar. And we'll put the lids on. Got this new little gadget. I thought I would try it. I don't know if I really like this magnet because I have a hard time getting it to let go of the lid. I'd rather just pick them up and put them on there. Alright. And then we put the bands on. This is to keep the lids on while they're cooking, while it's being processed, so that the lids stay in place and you make the rings finger tight. I'm using one hand right now, so I'll double check them in a second. Waiting on my water to heat up for the other 4 jars, because my kitchen's so darn small I don't have enough room in here, and I was using my bigger pot. Alright, looks like I can fill it now. Looks like it's hot enough. Get the air bubbles out. I only had 1 hot dog break on me while I was semi-cooking them. Alright, so I'm going to put them in the canner, because these jars are hot with that hot water. Alright, they're in the water. As I was picking one of the jars up, it popped to seal. And maybe my water that I put in the jars is too hot. Hopefully I won't have one that doesn't seal properly. So we got to put the lid on and then turn on the heat and let it vent for 10 minutes and then set for 10-11 pounds for 90 minutes. Alright, it just started venting, but the pressure valve hasn't come up. It's starting to make its little noise. In the video that I did yesterday, I talked about how it chattered yesterday before it got enough pressure to lock. So I'm going to start the 10 minutes when that comes up and locks into place. Maybe I shouldn't, I don't know. Like I said, this is only the second time that I've ever pressure canned. And it's going to go for 10 minutes and then I'll put the weight on there. There it goes, see? Alright. Someone suggested for the weight to buy one that's where you can set it for different pounds. I'm going to look that up online. Find out about investing in that. Alright, so we're going to let it vent for 10 minutes. Alright, 10 minutes is up. So I'm putting the weight on here. Lord, it's making a lot of noise. And it still scares me. Still scares me. It was like shaking a little bit, I noticed. I checked the burner to make sure it was set right on the burners, right in the center. I checked it on all sides. Maybe because I got one more extra, I don't know if you can see, extra jar in there. That's why it was shaking. I don't know. Alright, so we'll let the pressure build up and then turn it down. I think I got it pretty close to figuring out where it's supposed to be. Pressure slowly going up, and I just heard another jar inside the canner pop, I believe it was. Have you guys ever had that happen, those of you that pressure can? I hope that's not the case. See, I just heard another one pop. I think that's what's popping. Golly, I hope so. I don't know, maybe it's just the lid swelling up, or I don't know. Makes me nervous. Have you ever heard these little... See, it just made another popping sound. Very strange. I did not notice it making popping sounds yesterday. I just now turned down the burner because I'm almost to 11 pounds. You got to figure out, because this is an electric stove, figure out exactly where you got to set the dial. Let me zoom in there. But yesterday it was, or not yesterday, day before yesterday. I wanted to can yesterday. But my sink was plugged up, and I guess if you're as old as this house, you got problems. The house was built in 1908. So if you were 114 years old, there'd be things falling apart on you too. Yeah. Waiting for it to get up. That's the hardest part for me, is adjusting the temperature. So maybe I got to get it up to 11 pounds before I turn it back down. But you guys know electric, it takes forever for the elements to cool off once they heat up. Alright, so it reached its point. I set the timer for 90 minutes. I have one more jar in here than what I had the first time I did this. You guys will laugh at me, my little heart's beating away. I am so nervous. I'm going to keep an eye on it. I had to turn it back up, the burner, and it's going to be alright to figure out where I got to set the burner so it holds at about 11 pounds. I had to laugh. Maybe I shouldn't laugh. They got this thing on the pressure gauge. Can I make it big? It says, caution! I'm surprised it's not printed in red. Looks like I gotta turn it down a little bit. See, it made that popping noise again. Why is it doing that? I don't know. I'm gonna adjust the burner and we'll come back in a little bit. Now they say you can go over the pounds per minute, but you can't go under 10 or 11. And if it goes under, then you gotta start all over with the time. Just made me a cup of coffee. Let's see, where is it? There it is. Saint Gertrude, the saint of cats. So far, I've spent about an hour getting the jars ready, cooking the hot dogs, putting them in the jars, adding the water, putting the lids on. And what I'm going to do after it's pressure cooked for 90 minutes, I'm just going to leave it this time on the burner to cool off naturally, and we'll see how long that takes. Finally figured out where to set the heat to keep it at about 11 pounds. I'm going to turn it off, and I'm just going to let it cool here on the burner. It's got more weight because there's an extra jar, and I'm not going to struggle to move it. Alright, and we'll wait until it cools down. It's 12:31. And we'll see how long it takes to cool down before I can open the lid. Alright, so it took a little bit more than a half an hour, a couple minutes, to cool down to 0. It's still got a little, I can hear it still bubbling in there. There we go. But I'm gonna let it off, and it's venting. I think it'll do that as long as there's still heat in there, and I think the jars are still bubbling. Alright, there's the cans. One jar's tipped over, and I don't know why. Maybe that was the rattling I heard. So I'll pull them out now. Alright, there they are. I'm going to let them cool off. Take off the rings. Wash them. Label them. They really plumped up pretty good. I'm glad I left some extra room in there for them. Yeah, that one's still bubbling. So we'll come back in a couple hours after they're cold, washed, and labeled, and show you what they look like. It smells good though. Boy, do they smell good. Alright, there they are with the rims off, all washed up, and all labeled. 7 jars with 8 hot dogs in 8 jars. If you're for a family, 1 jar per day. I don't know. Depends on how many you got in your family, right? Alright, at least I don't have to worry about power going out and the food in the freezer going spoiled. So if you have any more suggestions, please put them down below. Thank you for all the great suggestions, and I'll talk to you later. God bless you. Bye.